Good morning. Welcome to Clay County Economic Development Corporation's first annual Workforce Development Summit. We're grateful to you all for taking the time to be with us here today. My name is Laura Pavlus. I'm the Senior Vice President with Clay County Economic Development Corporation. We are here today to have a conversation about workforce, talent, human capital, employees, pick your favorite jargon here. Economic development is a constantly moving target, and we're never done with the work of economic development. There's no finish line, but we strive to always make a positive improvement in the business community. We strive to maximize our assets and make our business community as strong and resilient as we possibly can. 5 years ago, the entire strategy for business recruitment was building inventory. Do you have an empty building with the right infrastructure? Okay, let's talk. The company would come, the workers would follow, ancillary services would come last, but a shift was coming again. Demographic charts predicted the graying of the workforce years ago, and so now we find ourselves searching for solutions for a new challenge. The need for building inventory has not declined. We still need shovel-ready sites and buildings. But now, staffing the companies that we recruit has become far more challenging and critical, which brings us here today. We have a robust panel of community partners joining us today. We'll be hearing from Julie Hindall, Director of Talent Development for JAXUSA Partnership, Bruce Ferguson, President CEO of CareerSource Northeast Florida, Michael Rathjen, Vice President of School Programs for VyStar Credit Union and Vice Chair for the Clay Education Foundation, Kelly Mosley, Supervisor of Community and Business Partnerships for Clay District Schools Career and Technical Education Program, Kimberly Richardson, Chief Human Resources Officer for Clay County Utility Authority, Rachel Walker, Coordinator of Workforce Development for Clay District Schools Adult and Community Education, and Jay Paterson, Dean of Technical Education, Program and Partnership Development for St. Johns River State College. This is going to be a very full lineup, so a little bit of housekeeping. If we have time, we'll take a stretch break about halfway through, but we also want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if we are behind schedule, we won't stop. We'll just keep moving forward. So please feel welcome to get up at any time for more refreshments or whatever you need to do. Also, this is meant to be an interactive workshop type of summit. And at the end of each speaker's presentation, we'll allow for questions and answers. Today is about challenges and solutions, reducing redundancy and maximizing resources and opportunities. It is now my pleasure to call forward Julie Hindall of the JAXUSA Partnership.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yes, it works. Love that. So far it works. The battery has not died. Well, thank you, Laura, and your team for allowing me to be here this morning. Certainly, we have a very serious topic at hand, one that impacts every single one of us. And so today I'm going to share a little bit of information with you about JAXUSA Partnership, how we all work together as a region to move forward those economic development goals. We're going to look at some information and some data specifically on the talent situation we find ourselves in with our talent pool. And then I'm going to share a couple of strategies that we are currently employing at JAXUSA Partnership. So, a little bit about JAXUSA Partnership. So we are our 7 county regions economic development organization. We are a division of the JAX Chamber, and we are housed at the JAX Chamber, but certainly you can see Clay County is part of our region. We are so fortunate to have excellent partners such as the Clay County folks sitting here today with our economic development organization. We are able to work together synergistically to really work in conjunction with one another rather than compete. And that makes us a very successful and impactful region when we look at workforce development. Some information about what we do you can see on your screen, anything from business recruitment and expansion or retention of those companies that are already in the market. Marketing, we are engaged in a marketing campaign to recruit talent from other parts of the country through our findyourjax.com campaign. which really does a great job of highlighting every aspect of our region and why it's a great place to be. Certainly offering business intelligence, we use a variety of data tools to be able to pull together data that we need so that we can operate using that data and crafting strategies that make sense given that data that we know. Certainly workforce development, that's an area in which I'm engaged and move forward those talent development strategies that I'll be sharing with you in a few moments. And then also foreign direct investment, making sure that we have connections across the globe to continue interest in Northeast Florida. A quick look at our region's workforce, about 850,000 individuals in the workforce. We are very fortunate in Northeast Florida that we are able to retain talent from individuals who choose Jacksonville as their last duty stop. Therefore, we have a great deal of veterans here in our communities, bringing with them that talent that they have, the skills that they have learned in the military. Oftentimes, they are accompanied by a spouse or a partner that has trailed and moved along with them through their military career. So that's another part of the talent pool that we're very fortunate to have as a result of those military separations. Also, our median age, we're younger in this region than the rest of Florida, which hopefully for us from a talent perspective means we'll have more people working longer. And we are ranked in the top 5 best job markets by the Wall Street Journal. And to me, it's because we have such great diversity of the industries and all of the opportunities that accompany that in this region. You know, I come from Southeast Michigan, which is very dependent on the automotive industry. That's one industry, and if that industry falters, there's trouble for the workforce. Here in Northeast Florida, we are so fortunate to have a great diversity of industries in which people can utilize their skill sets, move around, and transition into these different industries and companies. So let's take a look at some of the activity that we've seen as a region, all working together in our economic development endeavors. 33 announcements between 2020 and 2021. You would think that due to a global pandemic, things would subside. The reverse was true. We had a great deal of interest right here in our region with companies in all of our target industries, but primarily we saw a focus on advanced manufacturing and advanced transportation and logistics. An impressive 5,400 new jobs brought to our region. And again, I'm looking at our economic development partners here. You know, this is not something that's done in a vacuum. There is so much work that's done throughout this entire region to make this happen. And a $1.4 billion capital investment is certainly something to be proud of. Companies have come here, they've seen the value of what is here already, and they want to make an investment in our region. But certainly, they want something from us, and that is a good talent pipeline. But we'll get to that. That's coming. So far in 2022, an impressive 14 announcements with many more active projects in the pipeline. You're going to see that there's still a continued focus on the advanced manufacturing and transportation and logistics projects, but we've also seen announcements in the financial services space, in professional services, and in health and biomedical as well. Over 1,500 new jobs being committed through these announcements, and certainly a great capital investment at over $473 million. All of these individuals, when they come here, they are looking to the talent pipeline. When we're looking at 2019 to 2022, again, we're still seeing a great deal of emphasis there on advanced transportation and logistics and financial services. But when you look at our region comparatively to the U.S., we have a greater concentration of manufacturing and transportation and logistics jobs. Now, as economic developers, we're only counting the jobs that are brought in by new projects. So when you're seeing things like organic growth in the health and biomedical industry, that kind of stuff is still happening. But if it's not one of our projects, we're not showing it in the numbers. But certainly we know that industries like health and biomedical are still thriving. In fact, 1 in 8 jobs in this region is based in health and biomedical. The thing that we know is true is that every single one of those employers is very much interested in talent. That's their first question. What's going on with your talent pipeline? And so it has been a priority for us to look at talent alignment, making sure that the talent pipeline of the future is aware of all of the different career pathway opportunities available to them right here in this region. Talent is really the new currency. And as such, we have been so fortunate to work with our school partners at the secondary and post-secondary level. We've had conversations with superintendents, college presidents, and we are engaging in work that is going to facilitate this talent alignment because we know we need to. As Laura alluded to, the talent crunch we find ourselves in is not something that is just going to be here as a trend for a while. This is something that is going to continue in the long-term future. In fact, when I think about the rest of my career in workforce development, talent development, I know that this talent crunch is going to be a problem. But that's why we're here to talk about strategies and solutions. Okay, this is the part where you're really going to say, we wish she would leave the stage, because we're going to be talking about some of these talent trends, and it's not pretty, but we need to know about this stuff so we can leverage each other's expertise so we can create great strategies to continue to move us forward. So first, we've seen some generational changes, and this data that I'm sharing with you comes from MC, which is now known as Lightcast. It came from a report actually authored by somebody from this region, Ron Hetrick. It's called The Demographic Drought. And when we look at this information, this really should inform and make us aware of why we're experiencing what we are experiencing right now, and let us know that this is something we are going to have to continue to address to maintain our solid talent pipeline and make sure that we are still moving forward with economic development. Okay, so some generational changes. Boomers are retiring. You may have heard that meme that was real popular a while back, like, okay, boomer. Well, guess what? I think when we look at that generation, we need to say, okay, boomer, because they were and are the most educated workforce that we've seen in this country. They worked incredibly hard and generated a significant amount of wealth. In fact, our boomers have a net worth of $1.2 million. But they've worked really, really hard, and they've achieved great positions within their careers. Now, boomers are looking to retire, and they were doing so before 2020 at a rate of about 2 million per year. In 2020, that became 3 million per year. That's an additional 1 million people that decided to retire. The boomers are also a very large group of individuals, sheer numbers. And so we don't have generations coming up after the boomers who are retiring to replace them. We simply don't have the numbers. And that's not going to change. And you'll see that when we take a look at birth rate, which is another trend that's leading to this. But the younger generations are not participating in the labor market as aggressively. The boomers are leaving very high-paying jobs, leaving a skills gap and just a sheer human number gap. And this is going to continue to be part of the workforce needs. Labor force participation. We're seeing a lot of gender and generational differences. So we had 2.4 million women leave the workforce during the pandemic. Some of them have returned, but other families have figured out that they can sustain themselves maybe with one income. And so you're still seeing some people who have not entered the workforce. You're also seeing, based on a more recent stat I heard, that people are staying out of the workforce, and to subsist, they are utilizing credit cards to do so. 23% of people that have not entered the workforce are using credit cards. So they're not going to be amassing that wealth like boomers, which is a concern. That's a separate concern. But men have really been disappearing from the workforce since the 1980s. When we look at the prime male age workforce, so ages 25 to 54, that was 94% participation rate in 1980. That has gone down in 2019 to 89%. And you may say, well, what does that really translate as far as numbers? That 5% represents 1 million fewer people, or 3 million fewer people in the workforce. So we already have that 3 million deficit. Then we're adding on the retirements of boomers. That's where we're starting to see these tremendous numbers of people not in the workforce, and why we currently have about 11 million unfilled jobs in the workforce. And the 5 million-ish people that are available to work, even if they filled all of those jobs, there are still over 5 million jobs that won't be filled. Something else we're seeing, the opioid epidemic. We know that this is a social crisis, but this is also affecting the people participating in the workforce, right? if individuals are struggling with an addiction, they are not going to be thinking about being in the workforce. And so that has taken about 860 working age males out of the workforce as well. We're also seeing that younger generations are deciding to continue living with their parents longer. And they may be relying on some of that parental wealth to be able to do so. So people are not necessarily leaving the nest, establishing households, maybe getting married and having children as quickly as generations in the past did. And we are seeing of people that are working, some of them are preferring part-time work rather than full-time work. See, I told you you'd want to kick me off of this stage. Okay, birth rates. Take a look at our United States map there. In 2003, we were doing a pretty good job with at or above replacement rate for birth rates. We were doing okay. That has drastically shifted. This is from 2017, and our folks in Utah and South Dakota are continuing with that at or above replacement rate, but the majority of states are not. And so, during the pandemic, we kind of chuckled a little bit about the COVID babies. We should be applauding those people because we need to continue with this birth rate thing because we don't have enough people. We just do not have enough human bodies to replace those that are leaving the workforce. But wait, there's more. Declining college enrollment. So typically during a recession, you will see an increase in the number of enrollments, particularly at state colleges and universities, as people realize that they need to upskill, retrain, make themselves a little recession-proof, if you will. What we went through in the pandemic was a totally different animal. Individuals were staying out of those post-secondary institutions, which means they weren't getting the skills and education needed to fill some of those jobs that our employers are desperately seeking. We have seen, from what I understand from our education partners, that enrollment is increasing, which is fantastic. We need that to happen, but there is going to be an impact from what we went through in the pandemic. Now, is the pandemic to blame for all of our problems? No. We've just looked at some other very significant factors that are a determinant, but that is one aspect of it. Immigration. We have had immigration has helped mitigate some of that low birth rate, but if we have lower immigration, then we have fewer people, again, available for the workforce. And then automation. For years, we've heard people say the robots are coming for our jobs, the robots are going to take our jobs. Well, they're just shifting the types of jobs that will be available for individuals. So some of the lower skilled jobs will become automated, but there are still going to be job openings and job needs despite automation. Somebody will need to design, build, troubleshoot, maintain those robots. Somebody is still going to have to do quality control based on what that robot is producing, right? So automation is not going to solve workforce gaps. It's going to just change the types of skills needed in the workforce. And that's why it's important for us to be aware of that, so we can educate those coming up in the talent pipeline or those who are already in the workforce that want to transition into a different job. We need to be making sure they're aware of this kind of stuff so they can upskill accordingly. Okay, let's move on from some of those facts and talk about some of the things that we are already doing to address the situation. So at JAXUSA Partnership, our strategic plan really illustrated for us that there was a lack of awareness and understanding of career pathways here in our region. And so we have created a career pathways campaign called earnup.org that really highlights these particular industries. We also have built out support industries as well after these were identified in our strategy, because we have seen some population growth here, and so as a result, there are additional services that are needed to handle that. So we have more jobs in education, construction, real estate, hospitality, sports and recreation. So you will see at your table, you have 2 postcards. This one addresses the career pathways component. If you flip it over, you're going to see that there is a QR code that will take you directly to our website, which is earnup.org. We have been taking this campaign into our schools throughout the region. We are so fortunate that we get to work with our CTE director. We get to work with students, guidance counselors, teachers, sharing this information with them about what we know to be true in career pathing here in Northeast Florida. What we do is use data that is very specific to our region to be able to tell the story. We also have other things that we're hoping are compelling to students, parents, veterans, adults who may be in career transition, data that's specific to the region about wages and growth projections. We also have videos. We have social media and a YouTube channel which features representatives from our industry talking about hiring needs, what they look for, jobs that they will hire for right after high school, or other types of career pathways within their own respective organizations. So we have been out in our community sharing this information, and we will continue to do that. At this point in the year, we've already had 29,000 touch points, whether it's a click on the website to look at one of our success stories, or if it's an actual presentation to our students, to parents, to community-based organizations and volunteers like Junior Achievement, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and the like. So we are committed to making sure we continue to share this information so that that talent pipeline and all those who impact it have the resources they need to really help us move forward. The next thing that we are doing is a relatively new part of our campaign. And you also have a postcard at your table on this. Invest in your company's future by investing in theirs. There's also a QR code that takes you directly to a sign-up form. So what we are doing is trying to hear what the business community has told us and what our educators have told us and try to bring the two together so we can make sure that companies have a chance to engage with that future talent pipeline in a variety of ways, in the ways that work best for them. So anybody from your respective companies can go on the website and they can say, you know what, I would really love to go in and do classroom presentations. I would really love to sit on an advisory board because I'm an IT person and I want to offer my assistance and insight so that curriculum is crafted in a very meaningful way for students. Maybe our company is looking to replace some equipment. We'd like to donate some equipment. There's so many different ways that your company can engage. And so you can go in and select the age group, the location, the type of engagement you'd like to have, if it needs to be virtual or hybrid, in person, whatever that is, and we will help facilitate those connections because we know this is very important and we know this is part of a long-term strategy for talent development that your company can have. And we're happy to help you, to sit down with you to begin crafting that very strategy. And so when you click on the website, it's going to have this kind of look. Again, that's just a real brief snippet there of what that form looks like. Please make sure that you complete that. And again, anybody from your organization, it doesn't have to be somebody in human resources or operations, anybody with a particular skill or interest and a willingness to share, they can sign up for this. And if you have any additional questions, I encourage you to contact either our Senior VP of Talent and Strategy, Anna Liebisch, or myself. And we will be very happy to sit down with you and begin looking at a strategy that makes sense for you given all that we know about what's going on with talent and the labor force. So that's where I think our next speaker is going to be really instrumental because there are training dollars to help with that upskilling that will help that workforce be successful. Absolutely right. And with that, I think that's the segue into our next speaker of the morning. The President and CEO of CareerSource Northeast Florida, Bruce Ferguson.
All right, she only took about half my presentation, so I'll remember not to follow her anymore. Thank you, Julie. No, really good information and data, and to piggyback a bit on, not only do we have to coach the kids on how to interview on Zoom, but boomers like me have to be educated on how to interview over Zoom and get comfortable with remote work, and I don't need to see your smiling face necessarily every day. So, but all companies are going through that kind of transition of how do we succeed in today's job market, and we'll get into a little bit of that as we go. But I'm Bruce Ferguson, President and CEO of CareerSource Northeast Florida. We serve essentially the same footprint as JAXUSA, with the exception of Flagler County. That's part of another workforce region for the moment. So just to set up, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into our specific job market and labor market here in Clay County and Northeast Florida. If you look at, these are the latest stats from August of this year, the far right column, we're at record low unemployment. We are well back to where we were pre-pandemic in terms of unemployment rates. The good news for our region is that we have continued, as Julie said, to experience robust job growth across virtually all industries. That speaks to the diversity of our economy, and that's a critical piece for Florida and for Northeast Florida in particular. If you look at any Wall Street Journal economists and other economists, Sean Snaith out of the University of Central Florida right now, they are saying in 2023, we're going to hit a recession. And we expect to see the kind of predictions or unemployment rates to tick up between 23 and 24 up to 4.8 to 5.3%. Now, that said, it's a lot different than where we were or where we are now at under 3, but typically economists will tell you that full employment still has a 5% unemployment rate. That's just the normal churn in the labor market. So there are a number of unfilled jobs, as Julie said. Nationally, a little over 11 million job postings. The interesting part of that, we're going to go back to that, the lesser skilled jobs. Of that 11 million job postings nationally, only 4.5 million of those require a college degree. 6.5 million of those openings do not require a college degree. So we've got to understand that. We need to know that the vast majority of our labor needs are not at the college degree level. When we look at population, which was a key topic here, we are seeing that the growth, the in-migration. Thankfully, our labor force has grown, even though our labor force participation rate has not been that good. But this kind of shows you, county by county and region, we're at kind of very steady, healthy growth. St. John's, as we all know, is exploding, right? 5.6% from 2020 to 2021. Duval has almost reached the million threshold. I feel sure by now in 2022 we're there. It just takes a while for these data points to catch up. And then if we want to take a look at our average annual wages, this is a little bit stale. We should be getting the more recent data out soon, and we will see those numbers go up even more. Inflation has driven wages. We've all experienced that. Every business owner knows it costs more to get employees off the sideline, so to speak. This is nationally, and Julie touched on this, the labor force participation rate. That is the key metric to this whole kind of mess. We know we have fewer workers. We really need to get the workers that are available back to work. How do we re-engage them, right? How do we pull them off the sidelines? Nationally, you can see the plunge of the pandemic, and we're not even close to back to where we should be. Now that 62.4 to 63.4, that doesn't look like a big number. That's over 5 million workers. That 1 percentage point of participation is 5 million workers. So if we look, though, at the region, it's a little bit better. Duval actually has the highest rate. Clay County's second highest rate of labor force participation. Look at Putnam. Putnam's struggling. Has been. The unemployment rate's not very high, but the labor force participation rate is really a challenge. St. John's, not a huge surprise. There is a much higher degree of retirees in St. John's, so that explains a good bit of that. If you just look at some county specific, the labor force here, a little over 113,000, 865,000 for the region. So we have very low, I mean, only 2,900, a little over 2,900 unemployed individuals. Now, mind you, unemployed means I'm actively seeking work, right? You have to be looking for a job and not finding it to be considered unemployed. If you're sitting on the sidelines and you're not looking for work, you're not in that unemployed number at all. Just a year by year look at our county labor force participation. You can see it's dropped off 5 percentage points over the last decade or so. So again, not real good signs. And what's interesting as well, Julie mentioned Ron Hetrick with Lightcast. We've seen wages go up significantly in the last year, but it has not moved the needle on labor force participation. You would think, everybody would start jumping back in. There's paying more. It's not moving the needle. There's other things that workers want beyond. So it's not just money that's going to bring them in. It's flexible work schedules. It's work from home. It's, I just want part-time. So we as employers have to think about what are the true job requirements of the jobs we have. Do I need that full-time person? Can I, what we call deconstruct pieces of this job so that somebody that doesn't have a college degree can do all this, excuse me, this part of the work, and I can, put the higher end skills to a different job. So employers are going to have to completely reimagine how they list their jobs, how they describe their jobs, and how they put the skill needs together for those jobs. Looking at, here's some wage trends over the last, what is that? Q1 of 2012, you can see it's up dramatically, but again, it hasn't impacted that labor force participation rate. When we look in the county at our top employers that are posting jobs, these are the companies that currently have the most jobs, and this is within our Employ Florida, our state workforce system job posting mechanism. Healthcare is way up there. FIS has a lot. Winn-Dixie. So you see a pretty wide variety of some what we might think are entry level, as well as some really high skilled, high need employers in that list. And then within that, what are the occupations that we have? These are the top 10 occupations over the last 6 months. Needless to say, I think that with Baptist and the new hospital opening, that's driving a lot of that on the RNs, but we see this across the region as well. So this isn't just unique specifically to Clay, but truck drivers, major need, right? So one of the things that we're doing, and Julie mentioned that we have training funds available for individuals that qualify. We have done, and the good news is we have increased the number of scholarship recipients, trainees this fall. It's double. Last fall was our worst enrollment period, and I think Jay may be able to speak to that in a little bit. Enrollment in state colleges is down, and we felt the same pain. We had scholarship dollars to provide and nobody knocking on the door. When we were going out to the colleges, to the campuses, doing our thing, that doubled this year. We had over 150 new scholarships just for this fall, very heavy in nursing and in truck driving. So we're trying to make sure where we put the dollars is matching with where the need is. That's what our role is in that regard. So Deconstructing jobs, and, takeaways from this is we have to rethink human resources. We have to rethink. I mean, I'm a boomer Xer kind of. I'm right on that bubble, right? So I look at my son and I think, all right, what is wrong with you, right? Why are you, this is not how I brought you up. But they think differently. The new generations think completely differently. We on the employer side have to think differently. We have to adapt. We have to understand their world. He's not ever known not having a smartphone, pretty much. I grew up with it. And I didn't know, I was telling somebody the other day, I remember I was on a Jack's Chamber leadership trip when I was sitting next to a bank CEO who had this weird little device in his hand, had a little keyboard on it. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, it's my BlackBerry." All right, think back, and that was the coolest thing, right? The BlackBerries. But anyway, we've come a long way. So we have to adapt on our end. You look at the generation that's sitting in this room, we have to change. We have to adapt and meet the needs of the workers that are coming because we have fewer of them. So we better treat them right. Any other questions, comments? We work hand in hand with Julie and the team at JAXUSA, with Crawford. When they have a project that is looking at clay or looking anywhere in our region, we're one of the first calls. Well, we're especially now with the talent being the primary driver, we're one of the first calls. Can you help us get the talent that we need? And Julie mentioned over the pandemic that it never slowed down. It picked up, and it got to the point where I was getting 3 calls a week, and I'm like, good Lord, I hope all these projects don't come in because I'm promising people I don't know we can have. So, but, they never all come in. But we've done a yeoman's job. The focus that this region has on its talent and on its workforce pipeline is incredibly important. And I know our career and tech ed folks are working hard at it. That's the future. We still need to send folks to 4-year university, but career and technical education is what's going to change our competitive edge locally. So thank you. And now we get to hear from the private sector. We're going to have Michael Rathjen with VyStar come up. He's wearing 2 hats today as the chair of the Clay Education Foundation and representing VyStar. So come on up, Mike.
Awesome. First presentation I get to deliver is on behalf of the Clay Education Foundation. So I am relatively new to the organization. We have one of our longtime board members, Miss Lisa Ashworth, here as well, who's represented the Clay Foundation for quite a while. I don't know how many years, but she's done a great job bringing it up to where we are. So she's an additional resource who we have in the room. So I'm only going to take about 5 minutes to do a bit of a commercial. And Laura mentioned that this would be interactive, so I thought I'd start out with a couple of questions. And one of them I'd like you to answer. One is maybe rhetorical, but the fact that you guys are in this room, I think you get it, right? We're here. So generally speaking, when someone is looking to move to a new area, so if they're coming not just for the employment opportunities, or maybe the low tax rate, or the number of days of sunshine that they might have, generally speaking, when a family's moving to a new area, what is something that they look for? What do they ask about? Schools, absolutely, right? The quality of the public schools, generally speaking, right? Because if they have the means for private funds or private schooling, they can pretty much customize their schooling wherever they're at. So if that's the case, what are you doing personally? What is your organization doing to help support the public school system? Now that one's the rhetorical part. You don't have to answer it. And again, I think the people in the room get it because you're here, but that may be a really good question to ask your neighbor or maybe your other Rotary clubs or whatnot, because it might sound like a cheesy late night infomercial, but $1 a day can make a difference, right? And if you give to organizations like the Education Foundation, they can multiply those funds and put them to use in living out our mission. So, the brief summary of our mission you see there is to support teachers and students. So we empower teachers and students. We also engage business and community partners to bring more resources to the table. And then in turn, we strengthen our overall community. So the Education Foundation has grown by leaps and bounds over the last few years. And we recently had a shift in our leadership. So we have a new president CEO. Her name is Carolyn Crawl. Y'all may recognize the name because she came from another organization here locally. But she couldn't be here today. She's at another event in Orlando. So I'll give a brief commercial on behalf of the Ed Foundation. So there's several things that the Ed Foundation does specifically to support our teachers and to support our students and, of course, strengthen our overall community. So you see a few of those there as far as our key pillars, focusing on the educators, focusing on literacy rates, and then helping drive innovation. And a question might come up is why support the educators, right? We're here to focus on students. The money should go to a per pupil. And there's a blended answer for that, because of course, right, we want to support the students, but as you support the teachers, you support the students. And the better quality teaching environment and the better quality educator you have, the better quality experience the student has, and therefore you are supporting the students. So educators are one of our main focuses. So we do things like the Teachers Lead Conference for Clay County specifically. And that is a year-long professional learning opportunity for those teachers who get selected as their Teachers of the Year for their respective schools. We do things like the Apple Awards for the Teacher of the Year and the School-Related Employee of the Year. Many of y'all have probably been to that, and that's done in partnership with the school district directly. And we also do things like the Tools for Schools program, which I'll show a few pictures here. These pictures are a little bit old, but because we now have a more permanent location inside Garber Auto Mall, which that was something that they did, so I'll give them a plug. They had a space that they let us clean out and revamp, and it's essentially a store. And so on each planning day during the school year, teachers will come through that Tools for Schools store, and there's dozens of volunteers, there's tens of thousands of dollars of donations made, and sometimes pallets of donations that are made. And Garber is a little bit more central to where we were, but it still wasn't meeting the need to our folks in the southern part of the county. So just this year, we launched a Tools for Schools store in Keystone Heights, actually in the school itself. And that one is going really well. Also, just so far this school year, just these last two Tools for Schools drives, we had over 500 teachers come through. And the average savings on a per teacher basis is around $200. And they come through and just they get bags and baskets and get loaded up. And so we couldn't do that without the support of our donors and our volunteers. So the next driving force there is the literacy. So we focus on things that help with early learning, and you can read some of the stats out there and I'm still baffled by this, but I get it, that by the time a student reaches third grade, they can predict how well they're going to do from that point on, both academically, professionally, because if they're not reading at a certain literacy rate, it's amazing how it then carries over. Because from the way I've understood it is from K through 3, you're learning to read, and then from 3 on, you're reading to learn. And if at that point you're unable to read, it's very difficult to learn. And so things like these libraries, and we just started a partnership with the Imagination Library, or it's called something else from Dolly Parton. Yeah, but I know it's the Imagination program. And so there's been hundreds of books donated, and it's targeted throughout multiple schools throughout the county. And then we help work with those educators to bring up the proficiency in reading for students across our county. And then the third pillar there is driving some innovation. So in addition to just simply equipping these classrooms with tools and helping teachers by providing things like grants for great ideas and giving money to those teachers who are willing to carry on with the specific initiative, we help purchase the material or the equipment. And so whether it's around robotics and computer sciences and engineering, purchasing things like drones or Lego sets and helping them become Lego masters, and then putting them in those environments where they will then get a chance to practice innovation, practice critical thinking, practice problem solving skills. And this is done across all of the different age groups. And this was done a couple of years ago where chief science officers were originated. So this was for the first time in Clay County. And I think it's the first time in the state of Florida where we worked with some of our business partners. The STEM to Hub is a great business partner of ours. And I think we also had AT&T help work on this, as well as a few others to create these chief science officers. And then they take the initiative to help drive innovation and drive those critical thinking, problem solving skills. One of the things I remember hearing from Dr. Liebisch was out of all of those jobs that are available, because they can pull all that data, that they pulled some common qualities or necessary skills, competency skills that were trending throughout like 80,000 different postings or something like that. And I like alliteration, so I summarized them a little bit after she was explaining them to us. But one of them is the communication skills, right? The oral and written communication skills. One of them is the critical thinking skills. And then the other one is somewhat of the creative thinking or conflict resolution is the way that I put that in, able to adapt in an environment and think on their feet. And so the challenge with the traditional core subjects is there's very little room for creativity in the sense, because, you know, the sentence structure is the sentence structure. The historical date is the historical date. The math problem is the math problem. So we see that, which we'll talk a little bit more when we shift to our internships with our VyStar students, is living in that gray area is difficult. And when they hear a response like, it depends, and then they're now challenged to go out and find more information because your answer depends, that you can start to hear the gears kind of burn, and because they're like, tell me the right answer. It depends. And you guys know in the business world, it depends on the quality of information we have and how much information we can gather. So then there's some fun things like sending mail into space and then having students get their letter back. So this was a Dream Big Florida project with Blue Origin and a Club for the Future of Northeast Florida, part of that STEM to Hub. And so just some cool things to help expand their thinking. And then another key component is ending the digital divide, or at least working on chipping away at that. So we were able to raise money and donate over 100 devices to students. 50 of those, for this example, went to the Pace Center for Girls. Another 50 went to Wilkinson Junior High. And so just helping give people a fresh start and an opportunity to access information and not just do their homework, but explore and create and pull up websites like earnup.org and things like that. So, and then bringing resources to the table. Mosh has been a great partner to come help with the experiential learning piece. In this example, they're doing a simulated crash on Mars, and then how they would navigate that the new terrain and what things that they would look for and whatnot. So a lot of it is in tandem with what you guys are doing, with what CareerSource recognizes, with what JAXUSA recognizes. As a matter of fact, and then what Kelly and Alice are doing with Career and Tech Ed. So it's refreshing to see so many partners coming together to not compete with one another, but to complete one another. So. And for example, here's a way that these resources were leveraged is our former leadership put this website together that really helps drive, and I recommend you take note of this because you can send any student to this, you can send teachers to this, guidance counselors to this, because it becomes a hub of information. And it pulls from the EarnUp website, and it pulls from the different data that CareerSource provided as well. So you saw advanced manufacturing being one of the top open job markets. Well, here you go as an example, and it'll walk them through and break down what's next and what's available. And then I like how, if you look there too, it talks about some next steps, like the outlook on the job itself, and then what you need to do first, then what you should consider doing next, and then it directs students back to our state college partners as well as universities. And then it also then takes it to the next step of what you can look forward to in the future. So please consider, I mean, again, many of you already get this, that's why you're here, but put a plug in for it at your next barbecue or this campfire, since now that the weather's changed a little bit. You can go onto our website, which is the clayeducationfoundation.org, and you can set up reoccurring giving. And again, $5 a month, $10 a month, $500 a month. The benefit of donating your money through that channel, which there's nothing wrong with just writing a check to help a teacher out or a specific school out, because it's all needed, is we have a matching grant funds. So we can turn your 500 to 1,000 or your 5 to 10. So it gets doubled through the state of Florida's Department of Education grant funds. So your money can go further and help more people. So, and that's it for the Clay Education Foundation. How'd I do, Lisa?
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. All right. And next, we have the fabulous Miss Kelly Mosley, who's a supervisor of community and business partnerships for CTE.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning to talk about career and technical education. My name is Kelly Mosley, and along with my colleague Alice Polk there in the third row, we work with over 120 different career and technical education teachers across the Clay County School District. And so from time to time we hear, you need to teach vocational education, or they don't teach vocational education anymore. And so I think part of the problem is that many years ago we were kind of rebranded, and it's called career and technical education. So whenever you hear that word, that was what we were in the past, was vocational education, and we're going to go through many of our programs that we offer in the school district today. Another thing from the past was it was only for a few students, those students that might be considered not college bound. But I can tell you now that in all of our career and technical education programs, we offer opportunities for all students. We have valedictorians in our class, we have 2.0 students in our classes, we have students with special needs in our classes. So our programs are for everybody, and you will see our students that are going to take their elective classes in CTE in addition to their AP, IB, dual enrollment classes as well. So CTE is for everybody. Another thing was it was only for a few jobs, those to expose those students to that required less than an associate degree. But now we have opportunities for all careers, and we try to expose those students to those secondary options, post-secondary options, whenever they leave the Clay County school districts. And in the past, it was just for a few, 6 to 7 different program areas, but now there's 17 different career clusters that, and 300 different programs that could possibly be offered. Additionally, it was in lieu of academics. Maybe students, you might think of in some places that they would go to like a technical high school, and that's not the model that we use in Clay County. The students are still going to be taking their academic classes as well as whatever CTE electives that they want to take as well. And then the bottom slide down there actually says that it was only focused on high school. But in Clay County schools, we offer middle school exploratory programs where they can take semester-long classes, and they can take sometimes 2, 3, 4 of those because they're in junior high for a couple years, and then they can take a different class every semester so that they can figure out what they want to pursue whenever they go to high school. So by the numbers, we have about 120 career and technical education teachers in junior high school and high school. And you can see in the paper that we've left on your desk there, in the middle here, you can see all the different programs that we offer in Clay County, and I'm going to highlight some of those here shortly. But we have almost 40 different programs in the county. And you know, Duval County, they have a couple of their schools where they really focus on CTE, Paterson, and some of those, but we offer a lot of different CTE programs at all of our secondary schools. Last year, we had over 2,000 nationally recognized industry certifications earned by career and tech ed students, and we have about 11,000 students that are enrolled in CTE programs here in Clay County. So I'm going to highlight a few of those. You can see we have several agriculture, food, and natural resource programs, ranging anywhere from veterinary assisting, horticulture, ag communications, biotechnology, agribusiness management. You will see a lot of those students in the fruits of their labor at the Clay County Fair every spring. Whenever you go and you see those livestock projects, that's going to be a lot of our agriculture students. And I can tell you our business partners, you know, when they're looking for hardworking kids, those are typically the ones that's going to get that job done for them. And so we're super proud of our agriculture programs and our students that are in FFA whenever you see those blue jackets around the community. This kind of goes with the, oh, you don't teach the trades, you don't teach vocational anymore, but we actually have 4 automotive programs around the county. We have automotive maintenance and light repair at 3 different schools, Middleburg, Clay High School, and Orange Park High School. And then we also have an auto body collision and repair program at Middleburg High School. So they have 2 different options that students can take. One thing that I will point out is if a program is not offered at a student's zoned school, if they can provide transportation, they can apply to go to that school. So while we have lots of business programs and lots of carpentry programs and health science at most schools, if something is not offered for a student and they can provide their own transportation, they can apply to go to that school. So we also have many different architecture, construction, and engineering programs. You can see at Middleburg High, they have carpentry, drafting, electrical wiring. Ridgeview, they have carpentry as well, and our only HVAC program. Clay High has carpentry. Orange Park High School, you might have seen the news article in the Clay Today where they featured our welding program. That teacher's actually up for Orange Park High School Teacher of the Year this year, Sherman Smith, and then our only engineering program there at Orange Park. Keystone offers carpentry. We have a partnership with ETA JAX for an electrical program that students can take in their senior year at Oakleaf High School. And then this year we added a construction program at Fleming Island High School as well for the first year. So you can see we have many different arts, AV technology programs ranging from digital design, TV production, commercial photography, fashion design. So lots of different options for students that are creative and have those creative arts side to them that they want to explore. But we have students that put on the school news. We have students that they'll go out and take the photography shots that you might see on the social media for the schools that they then use to promote their athletic programs or different programs at the school. So there's many options for students in these industries as well. As well as business management, administration, we have accounting, entrepreneurship at lots of our schools. So we all know that there is a teacher shortage, and so one of the ways that we try to help with that problem is we have several different early childhood education programs at our schools, and they actually operate on-site child care centers for preschool children that are students of Clay County School District employees, or they are students of community members. And so those students who want to become teachers, they actually have those learning labs, and they are accredited through DCF and VPA, just like, you know, if you sent your child to any of the preschools here in Clay County. And so that's a hands-on opportunity for students who want to become teachers to engage in that way. Health science. We heard from business partners last fall at our comprehensive local needs assessment that healthcare would be definitely an industry that we would have people, that we would need people for. And so this year, whenever we started a new program at Ridgeview High School, we decided to go with a health science program. So I'm sure everybody would agree that health science is definitely a career in Clay County, as we see lots of buildings and freestanding ERs and different surgery centers and things like that. So you can see we have many health science programs. They either do nursing assistant or EKG, and so we've started with a medical skills class there at Ridgeview, and they will continue to build on that as they go through the next years. Hospitality and tourism, that's a huge industry in Florida. And so we have several culinary programs at our high schools. You have probably enjoyed the fruits of their labor if you've gone to Clay Day and enjoyed those cookies that they make, or they get tapped to cater a lot of different events around the county. And they do a fantastic job. They're taught by chefs, and we're really proud of our culinary students. And we have one hospitality and tourism program, which is at Fleming Island High School. We have a computer systems and IT program at Middleburg High School, and then cybersecurity at Ridgeview High School. But in recent years, one of our business programs that was a digital information technology program, the students used to focus on a Microsoft Office specialist certification, and the Department of Education took that certification off of the list, and so now students are working on an IT fundamentals certification. So students that take our first level business course, and it's the first level for many of the courses, even digital design and some of those things, they are taking a class called Digital Information Technology, which is now more heavily on the IT side as opposed to like the Microsoft Office specialist, where they would have learned Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and that kind of thing. Then we have law, public safety, and security. We have an emergency medical responder program at Orange Park High, and then the Criminal Justice Academy there at Clay High School. So you can see that our students have lots of different options to go for careers that align with those highlighted pathways that Julie talked about earlier. And so the students, we have our college and career coaches. We're very fortunate to have those positions in Clay County that work as part of our team. And they go to the junior high schools and they promote our programs. In recent years, we've been able to get some of our programs up to the high school so they can actually come and see the labs and the programs that we have at the high schools to promote them, so that when those students are making their choices, like in January of their 8th grade year about what they want to take, they kind of have an idea of what their options are at the high schools. We also have freshman expos where the families can come in the evenings and tour the campus to see what their options are. And as the students, they take those beginning classes in 9th grade, but if they want to continue, they'll take those career and tech ed classes every year. So they continue to build upon each other. It's not like a one and done situation. They'll keep working, and many of them culminate in industry certifications like the ones that we have listed here. You can see in the business partner guide, we have on the left-hand side all of the different programs that we offer in Clay County, and then the different schools where they're located. And then on that right side are these nationally recognized industry certifications that they work on in addition to their high school diploma. So you'll recognize many of these logos here. You know, when you go get your car serviced, you know, you'll see that ASC certification, and there's a student level industry certification that our students are working on in order to earn that certification. We had our automotive advisory board this past week, and Jake Allison at Middleburg High School was talking about how last year they had about 90 certifications that were earned by our students in his automotive program there at Middleburg High School. We have students that are earning their CNA, where they're able to go get an entry-level job either in hospitals or assisted living facilities and things like that. Adobe, CompTIA, ServSafe for our culinary students, and certified veterinary assistants for our students at Clay High School that are interested in that pathway, and then NCCER for all of our construction programs. So what can CTE do for students? One of the big things is the industry certifications. That's something that they can put on job applications. They're going to be more marketable. They can put it on scholarship applications. Many of those industry certifications articulate to dual enrollment credit or college credit that they can get at various post-secondary institutions. They can have career shadowing. They can participate in internships, which some of our partners are going to highlight a little bit later. We take a lot of field trips. That was one of the biggest hits I feel like we had during COVID, was we couldn't have our guest speakers come in, we couldn't have field trips, and so, but we are back to having field trips and having those guest speakers that are able to come into our classrooms, and they get to work with professionals in the field. So what are some different things that business partners can do to be involved with our Clay County schools? they can provide guest speakers. Our teachers and our students love to hear from people in the industry. We can accomplish that through you come into the school, or we can set that up virtually. That was something good that I think that came from COVID, was that we did continue to have guest speakers, and our teachers became very comfortable with that. And it was great for the business partners because they didn't have to spend as much time to leave their place of business, and they could just hop on a Google Meet and they were able to talk to our students. And we actually had folks from, all over the Southeast that we wouldn't have had if it was only, if we were only taking guest speakers in person. Hosting field trips. Our students love to go out and see different opportunities that we might not be able to provide them in the school setting. Business partners can help students prepare for industry certifications. We need hosts for career shadowing, as well as providing student internships. To me, this is one of the biggest areas that I would say that business partners can help with. Whenever those students walk across the football fields and get their graduation, they're graduated, they get their high school diploma, they're not our captive audience anymore. And so we don't have daily contact with them like we do whenever they're 16, 17 years old. And so I've said to a lot of our business partners, we need to be able to get these students to work and to provide opportunities for them when they are 16, 17 years old, so they can learn about your industry, they can learn about your business, and you're more likely to keep them. Because whenever they're gone from the school district, we don't have them there every single day. So I think that's a tremendous opportunity that CCUA and VyStar is going to talk more about later on in the program. Also, teacher externships. Whenever we get our teachers, they learn the craft of becoming a teacher, but many of them have come from the industry that they are going to teach. But we still need them to be up to date on the things that are going on in your industry. So in the summer, if you're able to provide a paid externship for those teachers, that's always a great opportunity. We need folks to serve as contest judges and as mock job interviewers. During COVID, we also had we really struggled with the mock job interviews, but we still heard from our business partners that it was important for students to have those, so we would do those online. And so it was kind of a struggle at first with some of the technology and figured that out because we had never done that before, but we didn't let it whip us and we kept going, and it actually turned out really good because we heard from our business partners that they need to be able to, just as Bruce said before, they need to be able to interview online, not just interview in person. As well as providing technical assistance for teachers, financial sponsorships, participating in our activities like our college and career fair that I'll talk a little bit later. We also have ACE Mentoring, which Nicole is here from ACE Mentoring, and that's a program that we have after school for architecture, construction, and engineering. And we have a hard time getting mentors to come out to Clay County because it's kind of far from their places of business in Jacksonville. And so if you have folks in your organizations that might be able to participate with, Orange Park has a team and Middleburg High School has a team, and they meet after school and they need mentors that can help them work on a project that they present to industry professionals at UNF in the springtime. As well as serving on as advisory boards. We have about 14 different advisory boards that meet. Most of them meet virtually, but some of them do meet in person, and they meet 2 to 3 times a year. And their purpose is to advise, assist, and advocate for career and tech ed. So they work on, usually at our first meeting, they're working on 2 goals. Like, what are our 2 goals going to be? I'll tell you that about 90% of one of their 2 goals is mock job interviews. And so they work on the questions that the students need to answer, the rubric that they're going to be scored on, and then they actually come in and they're the ones that are the interviewers or help get interviewers for those students. A lot of them also work with, their goals tend to work with field trips and guest speakers as well. So a lot of the work with business partners is done through our advisory boards. One plug that I wanted to put in was a date, February the 16th. You can go ahead and put on your calendars. we partnered with the county this past year to have our first senior career fair out at the Clay County Fairgrounds, where students could come enroll, enlist, or get employed. And last year we had over 100 different business partners, post-secondary institutions, and the military that came out. We bused the students to the fairgrounds. It was in May, right before they graduated, and it was like, this is your last call. Like, this is your last opportunity. If you do not have a plan after graduation, you can come to the fairgrounds and you can get a job, you can enlist in the military, or you can enroll in college. And so that was a great event, and we're planning on having that again this year, but we're going to move it up to February before the students get senioritis right there at spring break. So if you are interested in participating in that, please let us know, and we will get you on the list for that. But, you know, there are lots of different opportunities for business partners to be involved with our schools. I am so proud of our students, and I don't want to steal any thunder from Kimberly earlier, but I think she's going to talk about the process of the internships that we have with Clay County Utility. But one of our teachers yesterday, he called me and he had recommended several students for their internship program, and he wanted to know about how did his students do? Like, what is some feedback that his students need and that he can be a better teacher to help them? And this morning she was just bragging on them. She was like, they were great. I wish I could have hired all of them. And that speaks to our teachers and the hard work that they put in every single day in teaching those students. And we could not be more proud of the work that they do here in the Clay County School District. All right, if there's any questions.
I kind of owe this company my life because it did save me, you know, immensely, because if I didn't, I don't know where I would be.
Clay Utility helped me have more of a vision of what I wanted to do because I had no idea.
It's something new every single day, and I love that. I'm not coming in and sitting at an office and typing on a computer and doing paperwork all day. I'm outside. I mean, I could be inside too, but it's something new every single day, and that's what keeps me going.
Hey, my name's Lindsay, and I'm an operator at Clay Utility.
My name's Gregory Harris. I'm a wastewater operator here at Clay County Utility Authority.
Hey, my name's Nick Jordan. I'm a B licensed water treatment plant operator here at Clay County Utility.
Weird, like, savior situation. I had a chemistry teacher let me know that there was a program and signed up for it.
My junior year, I applied for the internship, and I started my junior summer going into my senior year.
I was a senior in high school, and Clay Utility brought the internship program to our school. So I tried it out, and from there, it's just been awesome.
I'd go to school half the day, and then I'd come to Clay County Utility for half the day. And then after I graduated, they hired me on full-time.
I had all that time interning during school, and then once I turned 18 and, you know, could do my books and everything, I was able to work through that and become an operator like within a year.
You just run through the basic stuff that everybody else here does. You just do it in a shorter time. Still get the full experience of everything, and then, you know, that's your training time where you do your books and all that stuff. It's just to have your certifications. That way when you jump into the program full-time, you're already ahead of the game than anyone else would be.
College wasn't for me. I always wanted to work with my hands and get out there, and that's what this job is. You don't have to read books to know what to do. It's on-the-job training. So you go out there, you learn every day. It's very beneficial. I've never gone to college, and I'm making more money, more benefits, and I'm moving up in the food chain faster than being in college for all these years.
CCUA does do a good job of giving you your own control over things. It's up to you whether or not you want to progress or if you want to stay comfortable in your own little spot. Wherever your ambitions take you, you can go.
You know, you can learn a lot here, not just water treatment, but just skills in general.
Clay Utility will pay for schooling.
As long as you can make it applicable to your department or program that you're in. So again, it's up to you and what you want to do. They'll help you get there in a sense.
They want you to grow. They want you to have the ability to grow. So that's definitely possible with Clay Utility because we're only getting bigger.
That's the one thing that I did like about the internship is it preps you for the full-time. So you already know what you're doing. You're walking into it with a good mind.
I would say if they got the opportunity to take it, you'd have a lot to look forward to. There's lots of opportunities to move up.
At CCUA, they treat us really well. It's a small company, so you have the opportunity to be a big fish in a small pond.
Great opportunity to start a career young.
Everyone treats you well. You're a person. You want to come to work. You want to be with the people at work, and it's just a great time.
It's a great career. Serving the community that I grew up in, I just fell in love with.
You can start your career right after high school with Clay Utility and grow as much as you want because we're only going to get bigger.
Excited to be a part of the CCUA team and see where the future holds.
The more people we have here, the better the community can build. The more access we have to these things, the more we can do for the community and prepare for the future.
We are celebrating the grand opening of the VyStar Academy of Business at Bellevue High School here in Marion County. We really spare no expense. There's new furniture, new fixtures. This is brand new, cutting edge technology that we're installing at our newest branch. This is our 15th year of our partnerships with school districts. We've seen the impact that it makes on the students. This branch helps us do good and bank better by creating an opportunity for both the student interns who get to participate and then the student body who gets a chance to open a savings account with a reputable institution.
I think it's important because we're the first branch here in Marion County. It's showing that we can do something and we're doing this big thing. We're teaching other students about finance. We're learning about finance as we go.
Public education requires community support. When we work together, wonderful things can happen, and this is a great example of partnership between our business community and our school system. It's a win-win for all of us.
We live out our purpose of doing good, and that we are willing to lead by example in the business community by making the investment in education.
This branch specifically helps VyStar with their motto of doing good and banking better because we're starting at such a young age to teach students. We're doing the things that we need to do to actually make it out into the real world.
Thank you both for joining us here today to talk about all the good things happening with these student internship programs. Michael, 16 years ago, someone had the idea to open a VyStar branch in a high school. It must have been a really revolutionary idea at the time. Can you talk us through the formation of the program and that first school branch?
Absolutely. So I'd hate to diminish the value of it, but it wasn't as revolutionary at the time. I asked our former CEO if he had this insight into how beneficial it would be and how well it would be received and how many students we would impact, and he said no. He goes, I wish I would have. He goes, but it was just simply the right thing to do at the right time for that school. He was a former math teacher, so he had a heart for education. We served on an advisory board at a school where we learned what CTE was meant to develop. And there's a big difference between information and application, right? Information makes you smart, application makes you wise. And so it was just something we were willing to try because it aligned really well with our company goals as well. So we started with one school and then just continued on each year thereafter, depending on the county and how we can meet the needs. And it's grown every year since.
That's awesome. So tell us how the program works. How are the branches established, and then how do they get staff, hours, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's in partnership with the career and technical education departments at each of those schools and school districts. And they, so we know the need is there from the financial education standpoint. That's the obvious need, which is one of the reasons we wanted to get involved, is to help people early on in their life to help prevent them from falling into some of the financial pitfalls and traps that they would be in. And so we know that need's there. The other need is if the school has a program and wants to build a program to provide the hands-on learning experience, because there has to be the support on the school's side as well. And then if we have a full-service branch in the vicinity of that high school, we can then establish the partnership. And we currently offer the internship opportunity to 12 students from that school, and they work with us all summer long and learn how to not only work in a professional environment, but also run their own credit union. So we teach them more than just what people may think as far as teller operations. They learn marketing, they learn risk and compliance, they learn our self-monitoring program, they learn communication, conflict resolution, things like that. And then simultaneously, we're building out a space at their school to be a fully functional credit union on campus. And it's 100% integrated into our systems, but it's exclusively operated by those students. So when school starts, they run their very own school credit union every day as part of their classwork. So it takes the learning to the next level, right? I think that's one of the things we're challenged to do is take that word education and go a little bit deeper. Because what does that mean to be educated? There's an explanation component, there's an exposure component, and then there's an experiential component, right? And so this helps answer that question for those students. Why am I learning this? Why do I need to know this? And so those students get hands-on, first-hand experience running their school-based enterprise / VyStar credit union every day. And it's only open to the students and faculty of that campus. So it's a closed environment, so to speak, and then we help them build those skills and ideally continue on with us. They can start as early as a sophomore in high school and participate for 3 years in a row. And we've had students who've done that and then have come on to work with us after.
That's amazing. Kimberly, Clay County Utility Authority has experienced tremendous success working with the career and technical education of Clay County District Schools. Walk us through your organization's involvement with the program and some of the success that you guys have enjoyed.
I think our primary objective obviously is to introduce students to the utility and show them and educate them on the value that it has for the community that we serve. Obviously, partnering with the CT coordinators at the Clay County Public Schools has been a huge benefit. We want to introduce students to all the different professions that the utility offers. I mean, when you see these children, they don't know anything about wastewater, water operators. They don't know all the benefits there are to working at a utility.
That's awesome. This question's for both of you, but Kimberly, I'm going to have you go first. So throughout the years, what changes have you made in the program? What's worked really, really well? What's not worked that you've kind of dropped? What lessons have you learned? What are some of those best practices that you've found?
Well, I can tell you, we've been doing the program now for 6 years, and I really can't say that there's anything that hasn't worked well. You saw the video. Those interns were our very first interns. They ended up coming back to us and staying with us, and they have, in so many ways, they have surpassed some of our staff that have been with us for years. They are incredibly bright. They're sharp. They're ready to work. I can tell you, it's very, very beneficial to coordinate with your public schools and offer the internships, because that's where our future is. If you're not doing that, you should be. If your budget allows it, they're great staff.
Same question, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. So some things we've learned or that we've had to adjust. One was we transitioned to have a dedicated team member to support our program, because we didn't initially start that way. It was another duty as assigned for one of our local branch vice presidents. And once we built our 4th school branch program, we saw the need that this was going to continue to grow. And I think that's one thing that separated us from the crowd, so to speak, to really show our education partners that we're here for the right reasons. We've dedicated resources to supporting this partnership. You can get us on the phone, you can text us. We're here to walk arm in arm with you through helping develop these programs and create these opportunities for students. So adding a dedicated resource at the appropriate time to be that liaison specifically for our school programs. We did have to adjust our application process to be more front heavy with the expectations. And then we started to include parents in our parent meetings and just try to bring the family together. And that helped reduce some of the confusion. We were able to manage those expectations on all sides, between the school, the teacher, the student, and the parent. And that's helped out quite a bit. And we've had a lot of success. We've had a lot of challenges. It is difficult to do. It takes a lot of work to make these types of programs work, but it's 100% worth the work. And I would argue, I know you weren't implying it isn't, but it's in your budget. It's in your marketing budget. It's in your HR budget. It's in your talent development budget. It's in, you can carve out from whichever one of these budgets to create these types of opportunities for students.
That's awesome. So you're now in 18 high schools, you shared with me, and 8 counties. That's truly amazing. I want to ask each of you if you have a favorite success story. Do you have a favorite student, or you can have 2, it's okay. Kimberly, I'll start with you.
I have to say, when we first put together that video, our public relations guy walks into the office to see, what I thought of. I'm crying. And he said, "Why are you crying?" And I'm there were several times during the program that I wasn't sure that we were giving the students what they needed or we're doing it right. And when you watch that video, you realize that you are, and you're offering them opportunities that they sometimes wouldn't otherwise have. So I really feel like all 3 of those are my most favorite stories, and I hope to have 3 more, it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point too, with the opportunities they might not have otherwise had. Because one of the things we had to, and this is somewhat backtracking just a bit, but it makes sense, is to help broaden their perspective. Because when they think financial services for us, they're like, oh, I'm not good at math. I don't want to be an accountant. We don't have to be. I mean, it's helpful, but you're going to learn how to work with people. You could also move into security or to marketing, digital design, data analytics. And so helping broaden their perspective and then further support the other programs available at the school to help them see the benefit of all the opportunity available within each of the industry sectors. So a couple of really, I mean, there's so many, so it is hard, but Lex Walton is one of our favorites. He started in our program at Wolfson High School, which, as you may recall, Wolfson used to have a police substation basically connected to it, and they've changed their flow a bit. But Lex had no desire to work in banking, no desire. Didn't want to be a teller. He's a football player, but he saw the opportunity to make money, and that's as simple as it was. But he started out in our program for 2 years as a student, and then came on to work with us at our branches for 2 years, even though for him it was just a job at the time, but it was an opportunity. And meanwhile, he was taking advantage of CareerSource and FSCJ type scholarships, and he was getting his IT credentials. So then he moved into the IT department, spent 2 years on our help desk, and then got promoted to application support. And now he's in one of our application support supervisors, and he's been with us since he was 16. Like, it's exciting to see that growth and development, and talk about talent development, right? Specifically for our organization. And then another one is a young lady who she was only in our program for 1 year, and she was a 15-year-old at the time, sophomore. And so when she had turned 16, she wanted to apply for what would be her first full-time job. And I remember this because it showed me the impact that we could have. So she applied to work at a restaurant. The restaurant saw her resume that she worked with VyStar, wondered how she could work with VyStar at 15, called her teacher, help me understand what this program is. Her teacher explained all of the responsibilities she had to undertake, and the qualification criteria and the accountability and handling cash and handling member services. So that employer said, not only do we want to hire you at 16, but we want to hire you as a shift leader. And so how many years did she bypass by participating in our internship and for one season, so to speak? So to me, that's also a very valuable success story, because she had that head start to move on in whatever capacity she chose with a different employer.
That's awesome. So you're not just helping your own workforce and your company needs, but you're also changing lives and really making a difference in your community. So VyStar Credit Union's really been a leader in establishing these types of partnerships for talent development. And as one of the originators of this strategy, for talent development and creating the pipeline, what would you have for other community leaders? What advice would you have for them in mitigating some of their staffing headaches using some of these programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, like Ms. Kimberly said, if you can make it work somehow, and you don't have to create a program that expands across 8 different counties and 8 different high schools. And again, we didn't set out with that vision. If you offer one internship, you're making a difference. If you serve on an advisory board, you make a difference. And even though it may be perceived as somewhat selfish to just go in and exclusively try to build talent for your own organization, it's a win-win for everyone involved, and that's okay if you're working to groom talent specifically for your organization. We heard it today. Some of the benefits that we get now working with a younger demographic is we get insight into what they are interested in, and we get insight into a new consumer base and a new employee base. So there's really a strategic advantage to getting involved, which we didn't get involved for that reason. But some of the added benefits of being involved, I mean, we have an incubator program, so to speak. We've slowly done that in transitioning to some new software. We're able to roll that out at our school programs and try it. And it mitigates some of the risk on our side because it's a low impact if it doesn't go well. So there's a lot of strategic advantages. And then, I mean, most importantly for everyone involved is that you're developing your own talent, but that means giving someone an opportunity and giving them valuable skills to enter the marketplace. And whether it's with your company, which is ideal, or someone else's, it's a win-win for everyone.
That's awesome. So Kimberly, you have been a human resources professional throughout the entirety of your career. And I wanted to just take advantage of your knowledge and expertise and ask you about changes that you've seen in the talent pipeline, changes that you've seen in the staffing world throughout the year, and how are you pivoting to manage some of those changes?
I think Bruce actually kind of spoke to it earlier, but recruitment has been a big issue, especially this past year, with trying to keep the competitive salaries. Not only that, is that there was the generational gap is also there in trying to recruit and offer the benefits that this generation deemed beneficial. Obviously, the younger generation isn't as enamored by medical benefits and things like that, whereas the older generation is. So trying to offer the balancing that and offering the compensation and the benefits to be able to recruit a talented workforce.
That's awesome. Thank you both for being here with us today. We really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing in the community. We appreciate all of your hard work with these internship programs and supporting our kiddos as we move forward. So, big round of applause. Does anybody have a question for them? Go ahead, Chris.
I just have a comment. So, Michael, you guys are in Bradford. I'm from Bradford County.
Yes, sir.
And so I really learn and share. But with the VyStar program that you have over at Bradford High School, with a branch there, you're able to kind of backfill into positions that are there. So Kimberly, on the wastewater side, obviously there's only so many plants in Clay County. So would you consider like your program kind of a springboard to maybe offer like surrounding areas employees that come through the program?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's the reason I asked that. I know because there's 3 there. And then as that program continues to fill up, the interest is there. Again, obviously, there's only so many positions in a field like that. So and I asked that question too because, say, for instance, in the city of Stark, we're very limited to the number of people that we have. If we were to lose somebody in one of those departments, then we're struggling to try to find somebody to backfill that.
Yeah, we love to be able to do that. And like, that's actually a great question because every year we kind of have that issue where, we maybe don't have a position open to offer them, and our people typically want to keep them. It's like we can't keep them all, we'd love to. So yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to partner with you all and offer them something somewhere because, like I said, they're talented and talented individuals, and we'd love to be able to provide them.
And Michael, the program is doing great in Stark and Bradford County, so we appreciate you guys doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call, ladies first, I'm going to call Lisa.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Clay County Utility Board. My son was not a college kid at all, and so this is before the internship program starts. My son worked for the County Utility Authority for 10 years, moved up all over the organization, did a bunch of different things, but it really gave him the strength to, he didn't stay with Clay County Utility Authority, but what he did is he started his own business here in Clay County. And so I take those skills that he took from there and all the different things to build his self up to know that he could go out and start his own business and be productive within our county, which means now my grandkids hopefully will stay in the county too and make sure that everybody, we'll continue to grow our county. But even though they don't always stay, those skills and those things that he did make a big difference. And I think our county really does a great job of that.
Awesome. Okay, Crutcher.
So, Kimberly, I'm not trying to cut you out. Michael Kelly, so working with industry, I'll have them say, hey, we're trying to find employees. And I'll say, hey, have you looked at internship or looked at our kind of setting up a program at the local schools? So would you recommend go through the foundation or go directly to the school? And what's the, or you could say both and,
Yeah, through the school for sure as a starting point.
Okay. Because I get asked, but hey, how can we get engaged and who do we need to talk to and that sort of thing. So.
And you can connect them with me, and then typically we'll connect them with the college and career coaches that are at each high school that's part of our team.
Okay.
the boots on the ground there at the school.
Because we've got local industry now, they're going from, roughly 50 employees, a lot of blue collar welding, electrical, things like that. They're looking to expand from 100,000 square feet to 250 and go from 50 employees to 150 employees in about 3 years.
And I'll tell you, especially for that industry, the first thing I want to say to them is that they need to get involved in an advisory board.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of long-term business partners that have been with us for decades and decades that have been involved with those advisory boards. And, you know, they put a lot of work into that. And so they're the ones that typically come to those mock job interviews. And selfishly, they do it because they want the first pick of those kids.
Sure.
And so that's going to be the first place that I'm going to direct them to, is to come join
Okay.
our advisory boards and get involved that way, and then we can take the next step.
Okay. We can connect those dots. Thank you.
And there may be apprehension from a company standpoint to start a program because they need talent now, but that's where just helping them see the value in starting now, because what we can do one of two things, right? We can either prepare for our future or we will repair from our past, right? Specifically with finances, that means a lot. So helping them see that there's a long-term value to that. And I think it's okay to talk about the positive PR that they would get, because they're doing the right thing for the right reason. So those stories get told, but they have to start somewhere. And then the loyalty from the the students who come up through the program, they're very loyal because you gave them an opportunity at 15, 16 years old and have invested so much into them. So you're more likely to retain that talent as well, and in the community that they're in, which is a benefit for everyone.
So Michael, I'm going to challenge you to put a video together like CCUA did. And actually, that would be great to tag off of our website too.
Yeah.
That we can show potential prospects, hey, here's a couple of programs and a couple of local companies that are doing things in the school systems.
Awesome.
If you guys at that point are good with that. So,
Yes, sir.
but that would be a cool PR for you guys, but we'd love to tag it off our stuff too.
Absolutely.
And maybe you have some talented students to do that, that help you with that, right?
Yeah, we do. Well, and some of the videos we have produced over the years will go to the TV and Production Academy at the school. And, or we will ask, for the culinary program to help. And we pay them, so we don't ask them to do it for free, but for our grand opening, because we want to create as much experiential learning as possible. So we'll see. That was a great video.
Go ahead, Dana.
How do you decide if there is enough need for an internship program to be completed, to be created?
That's a new question, Kelly.
Ask your question again.
So how do you determine if that industry, there's enough jobs available in order to create that internship?
Well, the way that CCUA came about was they came to us and they said, we have an aging workforce. We have nobody to replace them with. And I can remember saying, I think to Tom at the time, I was like, that's because, well, part of the problem is kids don't know what they don't know. So they don't even know that this opportunity is out there, and they don't even understand. Even if you say Clay County Utility, they might think, oh, when I turn my word on, but they don't understand everything that they're doing. And so that's how the conversation came about with Clay County Utility, is that they came to us and they said, we have a need. Do we have a program specifically for that on this list? No, we don't. But, we work together to put on paper, and we actually use a lot of the things that VyStar had already done to put together a packet for Clay County Utility, and then we basically advertise that program in the schools.
Okay.
And so we're like, I don't want to use the term recruiter, but like we advertise these opportunities, and then the students that apply, they pick them. It's their application. They are on their payroll. But something to think about is, our high school students get out of school at 1:20. So there's a lot of time that they can work in the afternoon. And a lot of the students, whenever they are seniors, like I think about Nick Jordan, he had a lot of his classes done. So I think he had like 3 class periods at Middleburg High. He worked with the school counselors to front load them 1st through 3rd period, and then the rest of the day he'd go and work at CCUA. So it really, it's kind of driven by industry, because even if there's not something on this list, we can still provide those opportunities and share that with our students for them to apply.
Do you have any statistics? Sorry, last question. Do you have any statistics that show, like, for the people who go through the program that she would hire, this many get employed inside of our county and vice for the different programs.
I think they usually keep up with that. I mean, don't you at VyStar, you know how many students you have over the years and how many.
We do. Something we've transitioned. We could have done a better job initially of keeping more of a list of where the students went afterwards, because we've offered over 1,700 year-long paid internships since we've started, and we've hired over 60. So we've kept tabs on those 60 for sure, but it would have been nice to go back to say, where did they get employed? Did another industry pick them up? Because anecdotally, we know we have employers call out to our teachers and say, hey, I need one of your VyStar kids, because they know they've been vetted, they've had some member service training, some cash handling training at a higher level. So we didn't do a good enough job keeping tabs on that, but we've started to do that now.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you both so much for being here with us today and sharing this information. It is now my pleasure to call to the stage Rachel Walker, Coordinator of Workforce Development for Clay County District Schools Adult and Community Education.
So good morning. First of all, I do want to thank Laura and the EDC for giving us this opportunity to learn about all the wonderful things happening within our local community as far as workforce education. But I'll go ahead and jump right into it because I do want to be respectful of your time. We are all aware that there are plenty of job opportunities out there, but filling those opportunities have been rough. So we are thrilled to speak with you today about our program and how we can help ease some of those pain points by way of adult and community education. So as far as who we are, so although our program falls under the Clay County School District, we are not K-12, we are not a technical college, nor are we a state college either. We are kind of in between. We have a small but mighty team of less than 20 employees that are all dedicated to providing quality, affordable education to over 900 students aged 16 and older each year. Two of us are here today. I'm Rachel Walker, the Coordinator of Workforce Development, and our Supervisor, Ms. Kristen Rousseau, is here as well. We have a wide range of programs that we offer. For those lacking a high school diploma, we offer in-person and online GED courses to prepare students for the GED exam. And then once they are actually ready to take the exam, we can give them the test on site because we are a certified or an authorized Pearson VUE testing center. When it comes to English speakers of other languages, we also offer ESOL classes to improve English speaking and literacy skills. And we offer quick and affordable career education programs, workforce training, transition services, and then community enrichment courses like belly dancing, American Sign Language, all that other fun stuff. But one of the first programs I want to speak with you guys about are specifically our GED and ESOL programs. These are our largest populations, and they do continue to rise. So to give you an idea of how we serve the community, I want to share some numbers. Recently, we had the opportunity to look at the 2020 census data collected for Clay County. And a little under 10% of the population in Clay identified themselves as lacking a high school diploma. That's around 12,400 people within Clay County alone. That's missing what many employers identify as the bare minimum qualification for employment. In addition, 3.7%, which equates to about 7,000, identified themselves as English language learners. These are the students that we are designed to serve. When looking at our enrollment numbers, you'll probably see in the 1920 up to 2021, it dips a little bit. We largely attribute that to COVID, but our numbers are going back up. But the great thing about looking at this data was that it helped us identify opportunities within our own program and within Clay County to identify some of those education and skills gaps. That being said, I'm going to roll right into how we address some of those skills gaps, and that is by way of career certificates.
Now, career certificates are an alternative to the multi-year programs, degree programs that you would see in some of our state colleges and schools. And our programs can be completed in as little as 4 months or in a single trimester. To keep up with talent demands, the Florida Department of Education has begun working with institutions like ours to develop something called IET programs. And that is where a student can earn their GED and a career certificate at the same time. So, as far as the current career certificate and IET programs that we offer now, we have certified nursing assistant, certified phlebotomy technician, public safety telecommunicator, also known as a 911 dispatcher. And then a brand new program we just started is a paraprofessional teacher assisting course. Now, all of these courses, aside from our public safety, actually have an industry certified professional that teaches the course alongside a GED instructor. And in the case of our paraprofessional, we have one instructor that covers both areas. As far as upcoming programs, we are getting ready to offer, and we're very excited about this, Microsoft Office Specialist. So if you do have individuals that need certifications in Excel, PowerPoint, Word, we will start offering those certifications within our program. We'll also start offering unmanned aircraft systems or drone operators, hoping for welding technology, and then advanced paraprofessional. Now, the two in the middle are slated to start a little bit later, probably in the fall of 2023. But as far as the Microsoft Office Specialist and the Advanced Paraprofessional, those are slated to kick off in January. An Advanced Paraprofessional deals more so with classroom management and other teaching aspects for teacher assistants that want to continue on into the education field. Another service we provide is transition services. As the coordinator of workforce development, part of my job involves preparing students for what's to come after they get their GED or their certification. And this is what I'm truly passionate about when speaking with students. As a matter of fact, this role was specifically created to address the need for college and career navigation services among adult students. So as far as these transition services that we provide, we don't want this to be the last step for them. So as they go through our program, we are touching on certain areas, and I actually do workshops and pop into the classroom to talk about things like resume writing, interviewing skills, networking, in which they actually create their own little elevator speech. They're practicing handshakes, looking people in the eye. And I know the job, things have changed when it comes to interviewing, but I still do think, and I pitch this to our students, that having those skills of interacting with people is very, very valuable. So we still like to touch on that. I also do job searching, practice job applications. They do college exploration, career exploration as well. And if there's an area where I do not feel comfortable or as well-versed, then I will bring in guest speakers. So for example, we will bring in St. John's River State, and they will come in and walk our students through how to apply for their college applications and for their foundation scholarships. So hopefully by the time our students leave, they have at least one of those things under their belt. Now, you know a little bit more about our program, so what I do want to talk about is how these services can directly impact your business via an educational partnership with us. First and foremost, talent pipelines. If you are an employer looking to hire individuals, come talk to me. I can get you right into our classroom. Our students love guest speakers, our teachers love guest speakers, and they love learning about different careers and the opportunities that are available to them. This works especially well for our career certificate programs. So for example, hospitals, nursing homes, they can come into our CNA classes and phlebotomy classes and speak to those students. And even with our 911 dispatch students, they can work outside of a 911 call center. A lot of people don't know, but they can also work at places like Amazon or UPS to dispatch trucks and buses and other vehicles. Another option is for customized training and upskilling. So we are actually capable of working with organizations or businesses to create customized training that addresses specific education or skills gaps within their own employees. And I'll share an example of that here in just a little bit. Oh, sorry. And the last one, of course, is on-site GED and ESOL classes. If you see the need to host any of these classes on your site, we can supply the teacher and all the materials necessary. You supply the space. So if you have a group of students where you think they need those English classes, you think they need those GED classes, we can provide those on-site at your location. That being said, we do need help in certain areas. As I mentioned earlier, census data show that there's still a very large population that we have the opportunity to serve. So keep in mind that with that data, not only is it voluntary, so the numbers are probably much higher than that, it's only for Clay County. So if you look at all the counties that are in our region, those numbers are much, much higher. And we can serve those surrounding counties. So we are not just limited to Clay. We can serve students in Duval, Baker, Putnam. We need your help in spreading the word that we are here, because a lot of people still do not know that we are here. And we're actually connected, our physical campus location, we're connected to Orange Park High School. So we're in a nice central location in Orange Park and easy to find. We're in very bright blue buildings on the far right end of Orange Park High School. So any affordable recruitment or advertising opportunities are always greatly appreciated. Then, of course, we have the need for clinical rotation and job shadowing sites, as we like our career certificate students to actually have on-the-job experience. And in some cases, it's required to sit for their exams, like the CNAs. And although our GED and ESOL courses are just $30 a trimester, so very affordable, we do have students that still cannot afford that. So any assistance with scholarships or sponsorships to help subsidize that tuition is greatly appreciated. To give you a better idea of what some of these mutual partnerships look like, I'm just going to go over a couple that we actually have in place right now. An example of where we provide customized training and they help us with student recruitment would be us working with the Clay County School District for our newer program to prepare employees for the paraprofessional exam. So if you are unaware, in order to become a paraprofessional, you have to have 60 college credit hours or a 2-year degree or pass the parapro exam. And we're all aware of the dire need for teachers and teaching assistants, so we're working with the school district to upskill newly hired employees before they become certified. And so we are preparing them for that actual exam. So they were able to hire the uncertified, expand their talent pool, and then give them a year to work with us to earn this paraprofessional certificate. And what they've also done is with those employees offered incentives, like a $400 bonus, monetary bonus once they complete the program. They pay for their books, they pay for the actual exam. So there's almost no reason to not go through this program that we offer. Another thing I do want to talk about as far as an example is a talent pipeline, and that would be with our clinical rotation sites. So right now we are actually working on an agreement with LabCorp, and they are willing to allow our phlebotomy students to come into their labs and have them practice sticking people. They need a necessary amount of sticks before they can sit for their exam as well. And so we ask these students to treat these rotations like working interviews, and that allows these sites to essentially have first dibs on these students when they come through the programs. And lastly, for class offerings and student sponsorships, one of the first examples, or the first example on there, is our partnership with an organization called Eckerd Connects. And they pay for our students aged 16 to 24 to go through our GED and career certificate programs. And in turn, we recruit students into their workforce development program. Another example is FLICA, in which both adult education or for those of you that don't know, the Florida Youth Challenge Academy. And that is where adult education and the school district partner with the National Guard to provide credit recovery, GED, and career certificate courses to at-risk youth on their site over at Camp Blanding. Now, your partnership may end up looking different from this, and that's okay. We are open to new and innovative ideas as to how we can work together. We just have to start that dialogue. So to wrap things up, once again, here are some of the upcoming projects for the new year, one being a Microsoft lab, and we will have brand new computers in there for our students to use for their Microsoft Office Specialist training. And of course, listed below are ways that you can help us make those upcoming programs a success, job shadowing, student recruitment, and such. If you have additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Ms. Rousseau here. There's our email up there. And if you notice, there is a flyer on your table. Looks like this. There's a QR code on the back. So if you are interested in inquiring about how we can upskill your employees or address any of those gaps, you can scan that, and there is a form that you can fill out, and I can reach out to you directly. And of course, we are on social media. So feel free to like us, follow us, and we will do the same for you. And I want to thank you guys for your time, and I hope we can start working together soon. Of course, last but not least, we have St. John's River State College, Jay Paterson, the Dean of Technical Ed.
Okay. Well, I think one of the things that I'm going to do is just echo a lot of what people have said. So I'll go relatively quickly. One thing I do want to do is just make sure people know, we often assume that people know what the college is, and with so many new people in the region, I just like to tell people that we are the state college that serves Putnam, Clay, and Duval, Putnam, Clay, and St. John's counties. We are about 75% part-time students. I'm looking here at the slide. So we had a 6,000 head count. And again, about a number of them are the Associate of Arts degree. So that's the transfer degree. But what I want to focus on is the programs that we call the workforce side of the house. So these are the programs that are not the Associate of Arts degree, but are really designed to get people employed and have that in common. I put up here the degrees we have in nursing and criminal justice. I'm going to just go through those quickly. Allied health. These are workforce programs that we have, but when you think about the industries that we're saying that we're trying to attract to the region, healthcare was one of them. Healthcare is a sector that actually seems to be functioning pretty well. We get quite a few applications. There's quite a bit of interest. There's a fairly established pathway. The profession is fairly established. So one of the things I wanted to talk about with this group today were some of the programs that we've established to do some of the other industries that are the focus of the regional economic development that people may not be as familiar with. People know what a nurse does. They've seen nursing. So there's kind of a natural attraction to that. People know what somebody does when they are a police officer. They've seen law enforcement. One of the things, and that I admire, like what Clay Utility did, was it's very difficult when you're in industries that people may not have a familiarity with. They don't know the career opportunities that are there. The instructors may not know. The staff at schools may not know. And unless your family worked in the business or you did something like that, you may not know. And you may not know all of the opportunities that are there, the types of careers, the livelihoods you can make, and the pathways, so that things aren't even necessarily stagnant. You don't start out and that's it. There's different ways to move up. So what I wanted to do today was just talk about some of the programs that we're doing and how we could use your help and how we hope we could help you. So really kind of have a partnership. 3 years ago, we established an engineering technology degree, an associate in science, and it has a focus on advanced manufacturing. But again, one of the things that we talked about was the amount of work that there's going to be with automation. the amount of supply chain logistics essentially is a lot of automation in plants, a lot of technology. And so what we need to do is get folks into that idea that they can be getting a career in technology. But one of the, if you don't mind, I'm just going to stand over here because I got to read my slide. I think I can talk to this group loud enough. So we have approximately 50 students. 95% of those students are already employed. So we constantly get calls from businesses saying, can we get graduates from the program in engineering technology? The number isn't that big right now. We're still trying to attract students, and the number of students that we have generally are already coming employed. So one of the things I just wanted to reinforce was the interest in getting folks involved in advisory boards, looking for being adjunct instructor, taking part in class projects, speakers, tours. We have a capstone class for manufacturing special topics, summer internships, all the things that people mentioned here. How can we get students starting in the school system and going up through and seeing this as a career opportunity? So we'd be happy to, like folks mentioned, it's in your own business's best interest to get involved. It helps them see you, even if they're already working, they then see you as a future place of employment. As new students come in and don't have an affiliation, that's a way for you to attract students. And the more you're talking it up, the more you're serving, the better you're making the program, the better you're making just to echo what Kelly said, that the schools realize, okay, this is a trend, this is really happening. I talk about a lot of times, we do have people that come from industry as instructors, but when you come to education, you kind of, in your head, when you stepped out of industry is kind of where everything is still at. So we need that kind of refreshment to say, you worked at General Dynamics 20 years ago, this is what it looks like now. Or this was Jacksonville, the region this long, this is what it's now. So being involved helps us stay current and helps us know where the opportunities are. The other thing is you can help to influence the program. So you can help to influence what the content looks like. And again, that's to your advantage as a business. We offer a computer education program. We have an associate degree in network systems, and we're looking at the software development bachelor's degree. That program has approximately 60 students. The average age is 24, and most are employed, but not necessarily in the field. Again, serving as part of the advisory board, offering paid or unpaid internships, in addition to the required curriculum and a capstone class. The more that businesses get involved and the students have this opportunity to develop a connection or see the opportunity, the more you're likely to attract students. I think, again, hearing I've sent actually that video from Clay Utility to another county advisory board, because I think that when you see the loyalty that comes with just being provided the opportunity, the difference is made. You understand what it is. And one of the things that I think I wanted to just talk about too was what these offer are steps. There's ways you can get involved and continue on to get an associate's degree. You can continue on to a bachelor's degree, but there's also a lot of opportunity to get started with shorter certificates. And so, you mentioned that people will say, "Oh, I'm not a mathematician. I can't do finance." Again, we're trying to get people to understand that in all of these industries, if you're in engineering technology, there's rocket scientists and there are people who are doing prints and interpretation. You don't have to be. I think too often people step out of computers or engineering or that because they think, "Oh, I'm not that into math," or "I don't want to go that far." And I think we understand in healthcare, there's kind of brain surgeons and, orderlies, but we don't understand in other businesses how there's levels and different opportunities and multiple opportunities. No businesses, no computer business or engineering business doesn't include finance, or a finance business that doesn't include IT, or a healthcare business that doesn't include finance and IT. And so I think helping people see things maybe not as siloed and more like there's different opportunities in all of these businesses is one of the things. Again, having advisory board members or businesses be part of helps the parents, the students, and the instructors all understand, oh, okay, this is much more complex than just this specific thing. Business education to support all of these industries that we're talking about. And these are, we have a number of students who are taking courses through dual enrollment. But again, this isn't a field that is general enough that somebody could get into and get into any one of the sectors that we've talked about as a potential area for growth. So, right now we have about 50 students in the accounting. The average age is 27. Some of the reason I put those statistics up there because I think people have a sense of how big potentially the market is. But when you start whittling it down into how many graduated, how many continued to college, how many who continued to college stayed in the area, or how many went to a 2-year school versus a 4-year school, how many finished, it starts to go down pretty quickly. So we have an interest in both increasing the numbers and then making sure that as we increase the numbers, they understand where the opportunities are and how they can get connected. So with the business, speaking to the program director, looking for advisory boards, class projects, business capstone, they have a business capstone class in both programs, where people often do an internship where they're already working. And Lee's looking for an internship for accounting students in particular. So again, we have this kind of universe, but there's actually very specific things that everybody can do and everybody's looking for. We can contact each other and be working together. And then Dr. Balkanoff is the director of the Bachelor's of Applied Science and Organizational Management, Supervision and Management, and Healthcare Administration. And healthcare is obviously a huge industry here. And her program has been growing, looking for advisory board members, class projects, case studies, can work and do an internship for the employer supervisor. And those are generally 180 hours. I don't know, Dr. Balkanoff, if you had anything else you'd like to add to that, or how you work with businesses, or anything that you think is...
I do a lot of cold calls when students have certain areas that they want to go into. I try to find a business that is in that area.
Yeah.
Obviously, every company in every field has to have a business department. So usually I try to get them interested in their field.
And one of the things you often get is how do we get, so of the students that are in the programs and of the students that are getting ready to graduate, we have a service called College Central, and you can go to the website. You can free of charge register a position. The job postings are automatically available to any of the students. They get a daily job alert of the opportunities, and they can see opportunities applied electronically. And you can contact me. I know that's a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time. I don't know if I'm hitting the wall on the agenda, but I think that I guess the one thing, I wanted to reiterate to folks that it's a very competitive market. Everything everybody has said here already, I just want to reiterate that. It's a competitive market. We need to increase the pool overall, and then we need to help people understand, as we increase the pool, where the opportunities are, and where those opportunities are that they can make really have career paths, make good livings, and not be limited, and kind of see a future. So whether or not they want to go to college right now, or they're looking for maybe a class or some skill set that will get them a job, I think that if it's in line with what's going on with economic development, with the businesses that are coming in, and that's really what we're trying to do, is make sure that those things are aligned. And the more we can help everybody see that that's where some of the opportunity is and the direction's going, the more successful we'll be.
I would like to thank all of our presenters for being here today. They put in a tremendous amount of hard work to prepare for today. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for your service to our community. You guys are all superheroes, and I appreciate all of you so much. Thank you so much for what you do. So now what, right? What's our takeaway? Talent development is not a sideline sport anymore. Businesses have to get involved in the training process. Our efforts have to be targeted, they have to be concise, and we have to reduce redundancy. I love what Michael said. We're not competing with one another. We're completing one another. Thank you all for attending today. If you're interested in viewing this information, we'll have it on our YouTube channel, which is Clay Florida Economic Development Corporation, very shortly. If you subscribe, you'll get a bell notification when that becomes available. And we'll also have the PowerPoints available on our website shortly for download as well. We thank you all for your support of economic development in Clay County. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.